What's happening, everybody? It's Sean with reactions to the classics, and today I got a top 10 reaction to Sabaton, brought to us by a friend and supporter of the channel, River. Thank you, River. Appreciate you. Appreciate all the patrons that make this thing go. Could not do it without him. If you'd like to support us in any way, check out that Patreon link below or the Patreon link on the end screen. All right, I'm going to admit to you, I've never even heard of Sabaton, so I did some deep research, and with these guys, you can go real deep. Don't worry. It's not going to be a 3-hour video. I'm not going to go into all the research that I did, but let's talk about the band for a minute. They're a heavy metal band from Sweden. The vast majority of their albums are written about historical events, mainly wars and significant battles, influenced by bands such as Iron Maiden. They're one of the most successful bands in Swedish history. Their name is a reference to a Sabaton, which is a knight's foot armor. Who knew? They stated they decided to focus primarily on historical themes in their lyrics after a couple of members watched the film Saving Private Ryan. In January 2019, the band announced the creation of a YouTube channel called Sabaton History. The channel documents the history of the events behind Sabaton songs and the songs themselves. Some really good videos over there. So I was telling you that if you like one of these songs, or more than one, but you really want to dive in, most of these songs are on there, not all of them. They've had a lot of different members, but Joachim Brodin, mine says his name, and Par Sundstrom are kind of the ones who we're going to talk about in here, who are going to give quotes from and stuff. So if you never watched one of our videos before, the music will not be in the video, but it will be at a Vimeo link below, so I encourage you to follow along with us. Let's kick this thing off. Number 10, you see it below, Ghost Division off the Art of War album in 2008. So every one of these songs, I'm basically going to give you a history lesson, right? Because it's about battles, but I'm not going to give you a huge one. I read a lot, but I condensed it down. So Ghost Division, the 7th Panzer Division, commanded by Erwin Rommel, participated in the invasion of Belgium and France in 1940. As the Germans, and he was a German soldier, German commander. As the Germans invaded France in 1940, Erwin and his 7th Panzer Division set a new record for the longest thrust in one day, covered 200 miles in one day. Not even the German high command could keep track of where they were located at all times during the French campaign. Due to their speed and their ability to appear where they were least expected, they were given the name, yeah, you got it, Ghost Division. Now the song tells about the second chapter, Waging War in Sung Ju's The Art of War book, which you probably could have imagined because that's the name of the album. According to Parr, the song was easily written and recorded. First thing that comes to Joachim when he thinks about the song is that the style of the song was so new to the band that it was being so hard-hitting and direct, but also many memories from the first couple of seconds on stage, he said. He also said that was the perfect subject to fit the song. And it was almost kind of a safe bet because Rommel was never accused of any war crimes. He wasn't part of the final solution or the Holocaust. He was a general doing his job, a very good soldier and commander. And when the Nazis forced him to commit suicide, even Winston Churchill said that the British had now lost their last gentlemanly opponent. And Parr says, in Ghost Division wrote about the armored division under the command of Erwin Rommel. The guy was not an avid Nazi. He just followed orders. And at the same time, he's a great commander who could show a lot of respect to the opponent and his soldiers. I think he managed to remain human after all, even if he fought on the wrong side. So just like to get the guy's thoughts on these things. All right, I'm going to have the lyrics up as always. Thanks again, River. All right, because I tell about the song before, I don't really got to read you the lyrics. I mean, but the chorus in there, living or dead, always ahead, fed by your dread, kind of sticks in your head. But you know what they don't do is they don't repeat a lot, right? They're telling a historical story. There's a lot of lyrics packed in to a song that's under 4 minutes long. Enjoyed it. The instrumentation was great. I think you're going to hear this a lot. The guitar work was great. The guitar on this, because they have different guitarists, some of the two of the guitarists left in 2012. But this one, you got Oscar Montiellis, and obviously Joachim's lyrics or his vocals are fantastic. Very catchy. Very catchy. All right. Next up, we have The Valley of Death, From the War to End All Wars in 2022. It's about the defensive battles that the Bulgarian troops fought in during the wars of the early 20th century. The song praises the courage and determination of the Bulgarian soldiers in the face of overwhelming odds, with the Bulgarians standing their ground in the face of wave after wave of attacks. The refrain emphasizes a sense of unity in the Bulgarian ranks as they fight for their nation and refuse to surrender, letting their artillery rain down on their attackers. The song serves as an inspiring tribute to the Bulgarian troops who fought bravely and held fast in the Valley of Death. And Joachim said, this is the Bulgarians and British fighting it out again at the Battle of Dorian. The British finally got through on their third or fourth attempt, and when they got there, the Bulgarians were gone. After the war, the British considered the Bulgarian commander, Vladimir Vazov, a true gentleman opponent. They actually invited him to do a guest lecture at a military college, and he went over to the UK several times after the war. So I will tell you guys I'm going to do the best I can with the names. If I don't get them right, it's no disrespect. It's just I'm doing the best I can. All right, let's check this thing out. Valley of Death. Guitar work, I'm assuming, it's not credited on the track. to Tommy Johansson and Chris Rowland. They were there at this time. The backing vocals are great. They really know how to write an anthemic song, right? Even though, some people I know call them power metal and all this, they call themselves heavy metal. They don't want to be called anything other than that, their own brand of heavy metal. It took me a minute to get, at first, like the first minute and a half, I wasn't really feeling Joachim's vocals. I mean, remember, the first song was from 08. This is from 22. So you're talking about 14 years. But once I got into it, I got it, man. It was fine. But a really good song. I thought some really good writing here. Just say, I wasn't going to share a lot of the lyrics, but here again, they've done this before. A lesson they should have learned by now. Reinforced with new men and guns who are ready for death when it comes. So united they're strong, united they're holding the line. The valley of death awaiting the British as they come their way. So some heavy, heavy lyrics are fantastic. Except Night Witches. Now, I mean, I live in the United States, so I learned something on every one of these songs, but this was particularly interesting to me. It's from Heroes in 2014. It's a story of the Russian female pilots of the 588th Bomber Regiment during World War II. A woman went to Stalin and said, hey, I want an all-woman fighter pilot. And he's like, sure, because at that point, anything goes, right? Their nickname, Night Witches, comes from the characteristic sound of their bomb planes that was all that could be heard during their nightly raids, since they set their engines to idle and would glide through the night to their target. This sound brought the enemy's thoughts to the broomsticks of witches. I mean, it's a great name. Night Witches. Got even a little bit of call and response in there. Guitars, Chris Rowland and Thob, England, with some additional guitars by Ken Kangstrom. So, I mean, the guitar work on here is obviously fantastic. And these women were actually bombing a German army, and the regiment was formed by Colonel Marina Raskova and led by Major Yevdokia Urshanskia. I wanted to give those ladies a shout out there. And, the outro kind of tells it all, right? They say these verses 3 times. From the depths of hell and silence, cast their spells, explosive violence, Russian nighttime flight, perfected, flawless vision, undetected. So really cool song, and I know a decent amount about World War II. I used to be a history teacher, but it's interesting being a history teacher in whatever country you're in. The history books are told from that perspective, but this is something obviously that we never got into. It was done, in 1941, and the U.S. didn't get in the war until December of 1941. So nothing I'd ever heard of. So really cool. Next up, we're going to stay right there on that Heroes album from 2014. We got Resist and Bite. It's a story of Chazars Ardianus, whose emblem is the wild boar, a small Belgian unit of soldiers who were supposed to defend the borders and hold their ground along the KW line in May of 1940. When the German armies, which included Rommel's Ghost Division that we talked about in the first song, approached the unit, they were supposed to retreat. But due to a communication failure, the order never reached them. So instead, they honored their original orders, which were to defend the border at all costs. They fought so bravely and on such a large front that they tricked the Axis into believing that they were facing a force much larger than 40 rifles strong. When finally they were captured and their captors asked, where are the others? They simply laughed and answered, there are no others. We are all. The song gets its title from their motto, Resiste et mords. In English, it means resist and bite. Resist and bite. That was a really good song. Started out with almost some AC/DC inspired Angus Young guitar work there, but it just kind of tells the story of what I was talking about. But, they say in the first pre-chorus, fight for 18 days of battle. It's like, this is 18 days. No odds are on our side. Few will fight for all until the bullets are gone. So it's insane that they fought for 18 days, right? I mean, people just built different, man, sometimes. People just built different, man. When you're fighting for your freedom, man, crazy stuff. Really good guitar work. Once again, super enjoyed that one. Next up, you see it below, we got Shiroyama from The Last Stand in 2016. It's about the Battle of Shiroyama, where between 350 to 500 samurai stood against 30,000 Imperial Japanese army troops. So that means like 60 to 1 for every guy. The battle resulted in the samurai being wiped out and marked the end of the Satsuma Rebellion. The main melody is copied from Touch in the Night by Battle Beast, a band that occasionally tours with Sabaton. The Satsuma domain was one of the most powerful feudal domains in the Tokugawa Japan and among the wealthiest throughout the Edo period. Unsurprisingly, they remained a classical samurai culture, and they were hugely disenfranchised by the rapid changes in the politics and culture of Japan's primary ruling forces. The rebellion spawned from resistance to these changes, as well as a shift in power dynamics. It's difficult or impossible for the old ways to survive in the face of change, right? Especially when that change represents technological and military advancement. The Japanese troops had guns, and the samurais are out there fighting with their swords, and samurais never really came back to any sort of power. I read a lot about this because it interests me. Shirayama, a great song. I really enjoyed the arrangement on that. That's one thing. There's different arrangements on these songs, right? They're not just coming in here just slamming guitars constantly. The guitar works great on every song, but there's a lot of other stuff going on here. But, and I didn't mention at the start, you might think samurai and you're thinking like, I don't know, 1200s, 1300, 14. This is in 1877. It wasn't that long ago, right? But, I don't know. All the lyrics are so good. Encircled by a vulture, the end of ancient culture, the dawn of destiny draws near. Imperial force defied, facing 500 samurai, surrounded, outnumbered 60 to 1. The sword faced the gun, Bushido dignified, which just simply means the way of the warrior, right? It's the last stand of the samurai, surrounded and outnumbered. So it's just a fantastic song, man. Great way to finish off the top half of this list. All right, now we're in that top 5. We got To Hell and Back, from another one from the Heroes album in 2014. It's the story of Audie Murphy, which I should know, but I actually don't, even though I live in the United States. The most decorated U.S. soldier in World War II. When he returned from the war, he suffered heavily from post-traumatic stress. Back then, they called it shell shock. And after a long time on medicines, he finally locked himself in a motel for 1 week to cure his addiction to drugs. And it's a crazy story. I won't go too much into it, but he locked himself in there with a gun and had carried around with him for a week. He said, either I'm going to come out of this hotel room free from drugs, because he felt enslaved to them and the depression, or I'm going to kill myself. So thankfully he came out. After this, he became a very famous movie star and even acted in the movie about himself that was titled To Hell and Back, which was also the title of his book, which was also the title of this song. And some of the lyrics were taken from his poem, The Crosses Grow on Anzio. Joachim visited Audie Murphy's grave in the Arlington Cemetery, and the band got in contact with his son, who came to their shows at the Greek Theater in LA, and gifted the band one of the original posters from that movie, To Hell and Back. And he also said how much he appreciated the fact that it wasn't some country song, that they were able to dignify his father and keep it upbeat. And an interesting story behind this, Joachim said, I like spaghetti westerns. It's not that I'm a fan of anything but the music, so I had an idea to mix spaghetti western and metal. Everybody in the band told me I was stupid. Of course, being a child as I am, I had to do it since they told me I couldn't do it. I ended up writing the song, and then I wasn't sure. It's kind of a playful theme. How can we, in a dignified way, honor a hero with something so playful? How can we tie this to the music? Then Audie Murphy turns up, who starred in Western movies. There's a link there, obviously. And what I really loved was reading his poems that he wrote after the war. And the song about him, he wrote a certain amount of the lyrics himself. Great story. Wow, To Hell and Back. What a fantastic song. Right? That song's fantastic. You had the whistling at the start, and then towards the end there, like the spaghetti westerns, and then it builds you in, it just pulls you in with the story. And the chorus is directly from Audie's writings. Crosses grow on Anzio, where no soldiers sleep and where hell is 6 feet deep. That death does wait, there's no debate, so charge and attack, going to hell and back. And then the bridge at the very end, it's either the bridge or verse 3, I've seen it put both ways. Oh, gather round me and listen while I speak of a war where hell is 6 feet deep, and all on the shore where cannons still roar. They're haunting my dreams. They're still there when I sleep, talking about his PTSD. But man, the guys sound great. This is a fantastic song. All right, at number 4, we got 7 Pillars of Wisdom from the Great War in 2019. Lawrence of Arabia was the name given to T.E. Lawrence by history for his actions during World War I. He was a British officer fighting the Ottoman Empire and assisted Arab revolutionaries in fighting a guerrilla war against the Ottoman forces. The 7 Pillars of Wisdom, which is the name of the song, is his book he wrote about his experiences in Arabia. While Lawrence was fighting the Ottomans in the Middle East, Britain and France forged the Sykes-Picot Agreement, a secret treaty to divide the Arabic territory among each other, instead of relinquishing it to their Arabic allies as initially promised. It is not known when Lawrence became aware of this agreement, but he did not agree with the deception and attempted to convince his superiors that an independent Arab nation was in their best interest. However, he was met with little success. According to Joachim, the song features one of the best guitar solos they have ever composed, as well as the best guitar and drum work. Well, that's high praise. I'm looking forward to hearing this one. Wow, that was a quick song. I'll tell you what, man. Yeah, that guitar work was fantastic. I thought the drumming was even better than the guitar work, right? I don't know, man. The instrumentation on here was just top notch, but I mean, it started out right with the drumming, and it was banging throughout. Shout out to Hans von Dahl on that, and the guitars are Chris Royland and Tommy Johansson again. But man, the whole song was just really, really well done. Talks about how they had to sabotage because they didn't have the forces, right? They couldn't meet the Ottoman Empire force for force, so they had to be smart in the way they attacked, and then later on, the deception, right, and all of that good stuff. And I mean, that's what happens, man, when man has a lust for power and money, right? And so that's kind of what happens. And these things are still going on today, but great work there. Next up, we got Christmas Truce. First single from the album, the song tells the story of the truce that took place during Christmas of 1914, the first year of World War I. The song has Christmas at its heart, as you can hear Carol of the Bells many times in this song, mostly from the piano. During this truce, this is a great story, German and British troops stopped fighting after the Germans were heard singing Christmas songs. They also had like Christmas trees in their bunkers, right? That's when an English-speaking German soldier called out for a temporary ceasefire. The ceasefire saw the exchanging of gifts and a soccer match between the two armies. From Sabaton's Instagram, Parr said, Christmas truce was our highest priority when we decided to write songs about World War I. Not only was it the most requested topic from our fans, but it was for us the most emotional story from the war. The song took us years to create since we wanted the music to reflect the mood honestly. It was a big challenge. We feel we managed to write a song that captures the spirit of this day over a century ago. Wow, Christmas Truce from, of course, the war to end all wars. I think that was my favorite song on here, right? Just everything about it, right? With the Christmas melody in the back, right? It was just fantastic, man. You could feel the emotion. It was just so well done, man. I mean, I know I read you about, it was about the chorus, and today we're all brothers, tonight we're all friends, a moment of peace in a war that never ends. Today we're all brothers, we drink and unite. Now Christmas has arrived, and the snow turns the ground white. And then you got to go back to your sides, and then you got to kill each other the next day. Which I'm sure these men realized the insanity of it, or most of them did, right? But the men who are fighting on the front lines, and women now, they're just pawns, man, in a bigger scheme, right? And Masters of War by Mr. Bob Dylan talks about that as many other songs do. But wow, that was good. All right, next up, I know I'm going to butcher this, so I'm sorry in advance. In Livsted I Creek from Careless Rex in 2012, where there's a Swedish version of this album and an English version. For a long time, the Swedish army consisted of conscripted farmhands and smallholders who were then given military training, unlike the recruited mercenaries used by other European countries. Men between the ages of 18 and 40 who were fit for military service were conscripted from the entire population of Sweden and Finland. However, as war dragged on, resources were drained. The mortality rate was frighteningly high, not only from battle. Epidemics spread like wildfire in the unsanitary conditions of the field camps. Disease, hunger, and cold took 4 times as many lives as the fighting. The high number of casualties forced the Swedish army to begin recruiting. By 1632, the Swedish fighting force had grown into a multinational army of 93,000 men. Only 6,000 were Swedes and Finns. The majority were German, English, Scottish, and Irish mercenaries. Casualties of the 30 Years' War were not only limited to the army. The German civilian population was also hit extremely hard. 30% of city dwellers and 40% of the rural population also succumbed to disease, hunger, and the violence of war. Now, you see the version down below from Spotify. We're actually going to watch a live version that River said is fantastic. All right, that was fantastic, man. I don't speak the language. I have no idea what they're saying. I read the English translation of the lyrics before I started the video, but that was just fantastic. I mean, the part at the start, maybe 45 seconds, where the crowd was just singing the song, maybe it was a minute, and I got to see Joachim and Parr there, actually see their faces and just them sinking all that in. I mean, that can never get old, man. Just amazing. So fantastic. All right, we're going to stay on that album, Careless Rex, the title track from 2012. It describes the crowning of the Swedish king Karl XII in the year of 1697. The modern kings of the time were no longer limited by the feudal system and believed they were now kings over their countries directly under God, with absolute authority over their vassals and subjects. This is the first Sabaton song that was composed not only by Joachim. It was composed by Joachim and the band's former sound engineer, Ken Kangstrom, in a little over 24 hours. The Great Northern War breaks out in February of 1700. Neighboring countries are planning to take back what they lost during the Swedish expansion in the 1600s. Sweden's attacked from 3 directions by Peter the Great in Russia, Augustus the Strong in Saxony, Poland, and Frederick IV in Denmark. They're all convinced that Sweden, led by her inexperienced teenage king, will be easy prey. This does not turn out that way. So Charles XII was only 18 years old, and that's what Careless Rex is in Latin, Charles XII. And his army quickly lined up several surprising victories. His courage, quick wit, and unusually good tactical eye make him an outstanding leader in pitched battle. His exceptional ability to infuse courage into his soldiers is another strong contributing factor in the initial triumphs and the high battle morale of the army. Swedish Army's treatment of both the civilian population and prisoners of war in Poland and Russia is sometimes extremely cruel. With the king's consent, there are merciless reprisals, including torture of children and mass executions of Russian prisoners. All right, number 1 on River's top 10 Sabaton songs, we got Careless Rex. And I'm using the English version here, not the Swedish version. So I guess I'm copping out with that. But anyway, Careless Rex. I can't say it as cool as the guys from Sabaton can. But yeah, I mean, the lyrics just talk about, when you think you weren't put in by the people, but you were put in by God, that gives you a greater level of confidence and grandeur, obviously, right? The chorus, I was chosen by heaven, say my name when you pray. So it's him talking. And I read that he was actually sworn in as king 2 months before his 15th birthday. So I guess his battle took place when he was 18. But yeah, like this guy was out there doing it. I was chosen by heaven, say my name when you pray to the sky. See Carolus rise to the skies with the Lord my protector, make them bow to my will to the skies. And so, yeah, I mean, a good way to finish this off. I mean, everything that's been good about this list is here. The great vocals by Joachim, the great guitar work, the great drumming. It's all on this song. And quite honestly, as we get to my favorite tracks, it's on every song. Let's see. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I guess I took one song off thinking I was going to take some songs. Like, they're all going to be on my faves. I mean, this is a fantastic list. Former history teacher. I enjoy doing the research on this thing. I try to give you guys the info on it without going too deep. But honorable mentions, Ghost Division, The Valley of Death, Resist and Bite. And this last song, Careless Rex. Faves are going to be Shiro Yama, To Hell and Back, 7 Pillars of Wisdom, Enlisted I Craig. I know I said that wrong, but I mean the live video. I think my favorite's Christmas Truce. I like the arrangement and I love the subject of it. So I don't know, man. Tell me what you think of this list. Now be nice because it's really, really hard to compile these top 10 lists. So kudos to River for doing this because you have to leave off so much stuff that's great, right? And you just can't quite ever get peace with it, the ones I put together. But it's like, I got to do it. I got to get it done. So it's a fun, yet sometimes agonizing process. So let me know what other songs I should check out. And let me know what you just think of this band. If you haven't already, give this a thumbs up. It really helps us out. And hit that subscribe button. We've got about 2,500 videos. There's going to be something here you like. Thanks again to River. Until next time, guys, I will see you